Welcome to the conclusion of this exciting series with master percussionist Susu. This is part 3 of Taq'n with Susu. In the first 2 episodes, we learned so much about Susu. And in this episode, we're going to learn everything about Susu that makes her such an amazing person. So as always, please like and subscribe. I mean, what's the worst going to happen? You'll get videos with my mediocre face in it. Sit back and enjoy the conclusion of Hot Talkin' with Susu.
Okay, here's an interesting question for you. If you could play only one song for the rest of your life, which song would you pick?
That just couldn't be. That just couldn't be. Okay, well, but I'll answer it. If I could only pick one song for the rest of my life, I would have to pick a long song. Right? I wouldn't pick a 2.5 or 3 minute little ditty. I'd have to pick a long song that had so many parts. So I'd have to pick like an Kulthum song, or like a maybe into Omri, one that's continues to challenge me, like how certain transitions happen. The songs that were recorded live, and you can find 3 different live recordings, and the rhythm section did transitions differently on all 3. It's like, oh, so I would pick a long song that had at least 3 melodic big movements, and then I would dig deep into. So I'm not saying into Omri, but that would be a contender.
Okay.
Because yeah.
That's a good loophole too.
Yeah, so I would pick a long song so that I'd have a lifetime worth of homework, because all of those long songs they're so rich. They're so rich in rhythm and rich in melodic changes and singing. So I could study the words, I could study the maqam, I could study the rhythm, I could study the transitions. I would pick the longest song I could find.
Go through the Kulthum's catalog and see which one she's
which is
sang
the
the
longest one. Yeah. I think,
and it depends on how she was feeling that night, right?
definitely. Yeah. So yeah, it would be hard to pick, but I think I'd try to find the longest one that was the hardest one
That was the best non-answer I've ever heard in my life. That was a good loophole. I like it. Make sure you get that.
Sneaky. What song would you pick? I'm curious.
I mean, I was thinking about this when I wrote these questions, and I'm with you. It was like, that would be a tough one, but probably an Kulthum song, written by Muhammad Abdul-Wahab or something, so nice and long and rich, and has those tarab moments and a lot of rhythm changes and mood changes. But I'm going to non-answer it too.
Great.
But I'm on the same page with you. So you've been learning some melodic instruments. Which ones and why?
God, if I could play them all. Well, I started on the oud, and I dabbled. Unfortunately, dabbling means you don't put enough practice hours in to feel worthy to play it in public. So I took some private instruction lessons on the oud from various teachers over the years. And I picked the oud for one reason. I love the oud. I love the oud. And it's considered like the guitar of the Middle East. So I thought, okay, the oud, I've done so many gigs as there's only one oud player and one drummer, and the oud player can usually carry the night. So I picked the oud because I thought, well, it has no frets. I could learn the quarter tones, the maqam. Although I could have picked the violin, but I heard the violin is really, really hard. So, and also it's played in Western music. So I thought, well, no, better pick the oud because it's considered the Middle Eastern instrument. So yeah, I picked the oud because I really love the oud. Now, I didn't just pick the oud. I also picked the nai. And the reason for the nai is because I love the nai. Oh my God, I get goosebumps. Like whenever I hear a taqsim on the oud, I go, when it's well done. I love the violin taqsims. I love kanun taqsims. But sometimes the oud takes me to some some place where I just like, oh, this is just, I just feel so peaceful and so hopeful and so curious about just like poetry. And also back to the oud is I thought, well, as I'm getting older, I got to start instruments when you're 5 years old. But so as I was getting older, I thought, oh, as a, I can't probably play the drum for, you know, very long because it's going to be hard on my body. I have to find a melodic instrument that will that I can play as I'm getting older, and also the drum after midnight, unless you're at a club. I don't really feel like drumming like power into the night. But I thought, well, I could transition to if I'm feeling sort of melancholy or feeling introspective. I thought the oud could take me there to for my Sunday mornings, my after midnight, something to bond with music that won't bother other people. that I So I picked the oud for that reason. The nai, I love the nai. Oh my god, I love the nai. When I hear Taq'n on the nai, I just feel like floating away. I feel like wind going through a willow tree. I feel like a leaf on a river. I feel like I can like the breath of the nai. It's just such a simple instrument. That's one thing I love about the nai. It's a reed. It grows from the ground. Something about it seems so simple, yet these players, the master players, they transcend the moment and they take you other places. It's the simplicity of it is it's just astounds me just with the 7 holes and something about that and the wind and the breathing and something about the nai is just so amazing. It feels very spiritual or mystical or Sufi or something. I don't know. But I found out trying to do the oud, which I'm not that good at, and trying to do the nai, which I'm just working at it. It takes years and years and years. But which one is more portable? If I'm already carrying a bunch of drums around, I thought it makes more sense to put a little more attention to the nai because it's more portable. You can take a nai or one or two with you in a little small case, take my drum, and also it fulfills the mood for Sunday mornings, after midnight, kind of something I can do by myself to explore Makam and the musical theory. So, but I would pick every instrument, to be honest with you. If I could, and I will. But as a dabbler, you have to kind of start narrowing it down. So,
I hear you on that. I think if I could pick a superpower, it would be to be able to play any musical instrument that I wanted to.
mm.
Accordion.
Don't start. See now.
Oh,
So now I yeah. Oh, I love the accordion. Oh my.
yeah.
But yeah.
On a side about the nai,
Mm-hmm.
um, we heard Scott Marcus one time at a lecture, and he was talking about different instruments. When he got to the nai, he was saying that there's a bit of lore about the nai and why it has the character it has and the sound that it has. And there's always something, even though it's uplifting and lovely and beautiful, there's always that little tiny bit of mournfulness, that tiny bit of sorrow. And it's because of the nature of the instrument being plucked from its home to
Mm.
be turned into an instrument. So
Mm.
while it's being valued and played, it still has that longing for its home and its reed family, you know. But anyways, I just found that just so like, oh my God, that's beautiful. What a beautiful like little story to
That
have
is
attached to it.
that is
Night, you
beautiful.
know.
And I will say there is something about the melodic structure of Middle Eastern music
Uh-huh.
that can have an underlying it can be so many things.
Yeah.
But it sometimes there's a sadness in some of the music that I can really relate to. And I'm not saying I'm so depressed, but I will say that maybe it's part of our emotional expression, and something about that resonates. Like
Mhm.
I agree.
With the humanity,
Yeah, it's
because
like
of complicated feelings that are hard to put a name to,
mhm.
but you can maybe put a sound to.
Yeah, exactly. Happy songs, sad songs, but there's
Right.
everything in
And
between.
some of the times they're mixed.
Oh yeah.
It when I first read the lyrics to Lessa Fakir,
Hmm.
and because that song always sounded a little bit bright to me. And then I read the lyrics and found out what the song was about and realized the sadness in it. And I realized that that was so intentional, putting the maqam that they did and, with the sad lyrics. And it's like, oh, yes, that's like the salty sweet.
Mm.
It's like dipping a french fry in a frosty, that complexity. Okay, so what so far has been the highlight of your professional career?
Well, I will say one highlight.
Mhm.
It's hard to pick just one, but I got to play on the same stage for the World Drum Festival here in San Francisco. Uh, got to play on the same stage as Tito Puente, not at the same time. Part of being invited to participate in the World Drum Festival was a highlight. But there have been so many. So live music I can't answer one question. There's like not just one highlight. There's having traveled to Egypt to record, to hire a band to record so that I could plug into the recording. Having done that with
That's
the
pretty amazing.
with the Nostalgia CD that Amina co-produced with Safa Farid's band, it was that whole trip was it was that whole trip was amazing. Meeting the musicians, rehearsing as we went down the Nile as part of Camp Nagum, and getting to know some of the musicians. And then there were challenges. Okay, so there were challenges, but even with those challenges, the final outcome was that I got to play on the CD, and then bringing a half baked product back home to collaborate with the local musicians that I had worked with. With Amina played on it and co-produced it, and then Hussein and Jalal and Yunus Al Mahmoul played on it, and it was, I mean, to be able to collaborate with other people. I mean, I wish George Lawan would have played on it, but he was recording his own album at the time. Um, there have been so many amazing musicians that I've worked with, and if I can record with all of them, that would, I mean, it's capturing all these live moments. Some of them happen in tiny little restaurants, and some happen at shows that there were no videos of. So there've been some a lot of big shows, and some of the little small intimate shows were like even at the corner on Castro. Sometimes there are moments that are so magical that you share with the dancer or the other musician that are just magical, and there are so many moments, and it's probably why I'm addicted to drumming. It's not for the whole gig or for the whole recording or for the whole, but just for the magical moment that happens here and there. It's enough to elevate my mood, feel the inspiration from someone watching, or feel the bright someone's eye, or having someone turn or starting to move. Those connections with people, I will say, are the highlights. It's connecting with a culture outside of my own, and like I thought of a highlight that's one of the funniest things is taking lessons with Yusuf Mustafa El Effendi when I was a teen, when he first came here after the King Tut exhibit, and he spoke no English and I spoke no Arabic. And taking a lesson after lesson, private lessons, where he would tell me stories in Arabic that I didn't understand anything, but I understood. It's like sometimes, just being open to, he's drumming and then he's talking about something, and he's showing, part of it is the way he would describe playing, and the dancer is dancing and then he's playing and then he says something and he says the rhythm and then he says Susu. And then he would Yusuf, and then he would say his name, and he would say la wahid nin talata arba, and he would count me in, and he would do things like tried to teach me, but telling stories as he taught. Him knows no English, me no Arabic at that time. So that those were precious moments. And years later, after Yusuf he'd played in the local club, then he moved to LA, played in a club there, and before he retired, he came back to San Francisco. And I will say these are some of my magic moments. He came back to San Francisco and worked at the local club called the Pasha Restaurant, that was owned by Jalaluddin. And I would be working at a place across town called Amira. We'd finish up 11:30. I'd zip across town to Pasha to play the midnight show, and it was in Yusef's last couple of years before he retired where I got to, I'll just say I got to understudy my master teacher. And he would, so I played behind him, and I got there right in time for the midnight show, and then it would like the silence between the set. Then I'd run to the back. Then he would say, then I'd sit in the position, and then they'd start the show, and then he would throw riffs at me. He would like look Susu, and he would start playing something, and then he'd repeat it over and over, and then he would tell me to do it. So those kind of things, the things that happen at live music situations where your teacher, after years and years of playing, is ready to give you more. Because I wasn't ready when I was younger. I could only take so much. That he went away. Then he came back. When he came back, I was ready for more, and he gave. It was like my teacher's feeding me more and more and more, and I was. To me, that those are my most. Those are some of my stories. There's so many. Oh my
I
God.
love that. I love that you explain your highlights as instead of a singular moment, more like a thread that's running through your life.
Well, things that help me to learn and,
Uh-huh.
and stay connected with my teachers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I got one more is that I got to do a duet with my teacher Vince Delgado at a festival last year, and I swear when he introduced us, I almost started crying, and then we just improvised for I don't know we were kind of toward the end of an outside festival Sirens Fest, and we did a little duet, and it was I just felt like oh my gosh. He came to the mic and he said, "Okay, I'm going to play with Susu. She's my, I said something about him, and then he said something about me, and then I just felt like, oh my God, I love this man so much, and I owe him a debt of gratitude." And then he said in the mic that he loved me, and that it was like, oh. And then we played together. I just felt like, oh my God, he's so continues to inspire me, and to be able to back him up as he's soloing, that was a huge honor.
Yeah.
To be able to have the connection still going after all these years. So, yeah, there's a couple of my teachers I haven't been in touch with because I have a lot of teachers. But Vince Delgado is my master teacher, and Yusef, I've bumped into him a few times, but he's retired, and Najib Al-Bahri and George Dubai, and there's like, it's. I study with the guys on the recordings too.
You've been very lucky to have studied with
Oh
some
my
of the best in the
God,
world,
oh
right?
my God. Hankish and
Thank you,
Saeed
Mom.
Ortiz, it's because of, gosh, yeah. I feel like the magic moments they're still happening, and they're going to continue to happen. In fact, I had a magic moment with you just at your festival last year. Speaking of magic moments, I recall that you danced to Bait Anek, and wow, you danced with such feeling. It was so amazing, and
Thank you.
we got to do a drum solo for you, your husband Mike, and Amina, and myself, and
Yeah.
I just remember feeling the thing that all drummers dream of is connecting with the dancer. I felt the connection with you. I felt like we were having a conversation, and other people were participating in it, and people in the audience got to watch it. It was, to me, that was a magical moment. And now we're
Agreed.
here talking. I'm telling you, I loved it, and I
Thank
thank
you.
you. I thank you for sharing the stage with me that day, and I look forward to the next time
Absolutely.
and the next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, you guys are a couple of my favorite people and favorite musicians, and the more that Mike and I have gotten to know you guys, the more we're grateful to have you in our lives. So,
well, thank you.
thank you so much, Susu, for answering these questions and agreeing to this interview. I really appreciate your candor and all the information that you shared with us today. I hope we get to chat again soon.
Well, thanks for asking the questions. And yikes, interviews are kind of nerve wracking. I would rather play the drum than talk, but let's just say I'm ready. But maybe next time.
Next time we put you in front of the camera, we'll have you drumming. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
So I want to thank you and Mike, and thanks Amina for hosting this event in Amina's Belly Dance Studio in San Francisco, Noe Valley. And I also want to thank all my teachers that have ever taught me, and all the musicians who've ever inspired me, and all the dancers from the beginner to the super pro who I've ever got to share the stage with. It's been an amazing journey, and it continues to be that. So
You're so beautiful. Thank you.